Good evening. Welcome back to In the Khud. This is 13th April 2023, 6:55 p.m. and I'm going to try and wrap this session in 5 minutes. Very crisp and very clean. So today's documentation is actually pretty simple. I mean, just the fact that I'm roaming around here in cycles in this viewport and this entire structure, something that I have made, is it's kind of like a next level satisfaction. Anyway. The few points that I'm going to go for this project itself. First thing I did today is Terrace array plus polygonal modeling. So you see this thing here. This I have made. I initially was trying to make it, not today, but initially I was trying to make it through geonodes, where you would do like raycast or something like that. Not there yet with geonodes. So I did it with basic polygonal modeling. How I did it is there is a curve which goes along this line and there is a curve which goes above, and the array modifier is applied onto these planks. Let me see if I can show it to you. I don't know. Currently you see Formington blend, and you see these blend 1 files. It's very important to delete these because it's just filling up my system very fast. 18.5 GB. Just keep deleting these blend 1 files. They're just basically autosave backups. That's all they are. But it's important to, yeah, you see all of this is here. So the way this is working is, let's say this is my plank. It has these modifiers here. Let me just become very small. Okay, still that's a problem. Yep. So there is the array modifier here, which is going fixed count 71. There is a curve modifier here, which is taking terrace curve. Now terrace curve is, if I can find it, terrace curve is this curve. I'll just switch it on. Okay, this little curve I made, this is what we're using for the array modifier. And then going back to the planks, we're doing a boolean we're doing with terrace boolean cut. So this curve that I made, that itself, I converted that curve into a mesh, and then I came up with this kind of a structure, which extruding those up and then alt S along the normals to make it something like this, kind of like how we did the curved smartphones. And then what you do is you boolean out this and keep it to intersect, so you're left with only this. Okay, nice. That was that. For the terrace part, I'm just going to strike it off so you can keep track. Variation to floor collections. So what you see here is not all the floors are exactly the same, like it's changing. So the way you do that is inside your collection, because it's just one object now. Inside that collection I made copies of it. So options, if I go into my floors, you will see floor right has floor right option 1, floor right option 2, and option 1, option 2 I just basically changed from here to here. Just like change the position of the tree, the plant, or add sofas here, and just to add like a little bit of variation. That's the same thing I've done here as well. So you see some have a plant. It's looking a little too symmetrical and almost like robotic, but that little variation does add a little bit of natural thing, because that's what I noticed in the reference as well. In the real life, it's not like all symmetric like a robot situation. So that was that. Terrace head. This little part I modeled is just a cube, and here this logo I actually added an emission shader to it. So what I did is, inside, if I have my files open, yeah, I brought it here inside Illustrator, that image, then I did image trace on it. So now, and I exported this as SVG, and then you come into Blender, you say file, import scalable vector graphics, then it comes as a ton of curves. You join all those curves and this weird kind of things happen in the mesh. Right, so that's a thing, and then I basically extruded it out. Cannot select it for some reason. No worries. The thing is, in the final render it's not even going to be visible because it's like twisting and coming out that way. Okay, so that geonodes cleanup. So if I go through my geonodes setup here, I have basically, okay, by the way, I have put it into the system that we needed. If I play it on frame dropping basically means it's skipping some frames. It's playing at 6 frames per second because it's way too heavy to play it in cycles in real time. So yeah, this is not exactly how I would want it to be, like at least the rotation part. It's kind of a little wonky. But the thing that I wanted to cover is inside geonodes. I of course cleaned up my node tree a bit. So you see it's a lot cleaner. This here I was trying to do something, it's scrapped at the moment. Here you see there's the terrace. Building floors, there's floor. क्या? Recording करो क्या वो? नहीं वही दिया था बटर चिकन. So here you see I've divided the building floors into floor right and floor left. Like actually it's the same value that's going in. I could have just made this 1, but I want to have a little modular control, so floor right and floor left. Then there's a center block in here, there's the elevator, we have scale elevator. Everything is very neatly mentioned here, so at no point do I get like lost inside anywhere. Here you have your podium floors, and then there are the foliage distribution, and then everything is being joined here. I think here it's the ground floor or something like that. So the thing I was going to talk about is in my GeoNodes tree, the rotation aspect, right? I was trying to figure that. So rotate, this is basically, you change the pivot point here. Rotate instances is so amazing, it comes with a pivot point. So if I go a little behind into the point where the rotation is actually happening. So let's say there is right and there is left, right? So if I was to take this is for right. If I was to take the pivot point here, from there it's going to rotate. So the rotation is going to be a little more wonky. Okay, same for left. I can just change the pivot point and it will work from there. So I figured that 1.5 is like a good kind of value for us to work with. That was one with GeoNodes. Messing with indices and booleans for pillars. So you see the pillar part here. If I just go to the end, because earlier our structure was completely symmetrical, so our pillars were just like a grid underneath and there was no problem at all. But now because there is asymmetry here, the way I figured this is very, it's not even procedural, it's very manual in fact. So here I've come in to the pillars, okay, instance on points. I've done a delete geometry. So first I've done a separate geometry, separate where index is equal to 22. That's giving one of those pillars. I clicked manually to figure which number of pillar this instance is, and you have to keep this to instance importantly, and then you transform it wherever you want to. Similarly for delete geometry, if the index number is 22, 23 and 20, which were the ones here, like for example if I was to mute this delete geometry, you will see that these will appear, which was not needed. So I manually selected those pillars and deleted them. And here again, you don't really need to do this, like there is no proceduralism here or math involved, is just manually selection. But again, because I want everything to be part of one GeoNodes tree so that I can reference things here and there from the top and the bottom, it's important to do a little bit of manual stuff like this. That is that. And background gradient contrast. So if I go into my shader, finally shading, I've added a bit of contrast. So this is one important thing I want to show, I haven't showed here, is this is one thing I learned from some online thing. I basically added a bit of contrast to the gradient behind so that the text which is coming on the left side can be a little more visible. I don't have to do a lot of color correction or grading inside Premiere, which becomes a pain. So basically the way you make sure, what this is doing is this mix is coming from light path is camera ray. That goes into the factor. Okay, when you do it this way, your color ramp and this gradient texture is behind, and that color is not affecting the objects in your scene. That is taking an HDRI. If I was to shut this, you will see that blue color, or let me just remove this completely. A part of that blue color, the gradient will start spilling on your objects. Here in fact it's not. Yeah, you see the light, we want to light the scene up as well, right? So for the light I've used the HDRI. This basically just separates the HDRI to only affect the objects as in lighting, and then your background, which is a color ramp, that's not affecting the objects. Like otherwise there'll be a blue tint on everything and then you have to do a lot of color correction, color grading. So yeah, I've hit under 12 minutes. I need to stop recording now. These are the basic changes. At 1709 I switched to 2 simple stories again, this was the full-time job, and the entire day has gone in this, and I am positive here that all the work that I had to do from my end is complete. The only thing which is kind of a problem here is the fact that I've spent so much time detailing this structure. Like this part is not even visible in the final render, but it's okay. Maybe we're going to use this model for like multiple creatives, so that's where this will get utilized. But yeah, the fact that it's super low poly, in fact it's just 560, 675. This is after all these instances, because all these collections itself are very light. I had showed in yesterday's video how you do Alt D instead of Shift D, so there's only one mesh which is being instanced over and over, and everything works in a beautiful system. So yep, that's where we are, and I'm gonna stop recording now. Thank you so much for being in the code. I'm in kind of a rush because I don't want to go to the gym too late, because then I end up sleeping very late, and then everything happens like a problem, and everything like a domino effect. Thanks so much for being in the code. I will catch you tomorrow. Peace.